Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a video on what I've learned about the Node Air 4C over the last week. So I've been using the device about a week, and I want to highlight some of the features that I have discovered along the way, some of the ways that I'm approaching the device, and give you some early impressions. And I've used it for about that whole week at work, so you'll actually get to hear what my thought process has been. But anyway, without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump on over and take a look at the device. Right, and here we are back with the Node Air 4C, and as many of you know, I've already sort of customized this and got it ready to go. You'll notice I have my frequently used here on the bottom. I'm very much an Android user, so I group a lot of things. And huge shout out to Voya, and thank you for letting me know how to do some of these things and making sure that these groupings work. And it is a little different than stock Android, or in my case, the Samsung Android ecosystem. So there are differences, and it's very important that you kind of get your head around that. If I would, I'll link his video in the description below. Great setup guide on how to do this. Now, I will warn you that some of it's already changed. One of the biggest things I think plaguing books right now is consistency in user interface. And they're working towards a unified system. I can see it. I can see the improvements. But there's very much a difference, even the naming conventions from one device to another. So in watching Voya's video, there were things that were called something else or were under a different menu than the device I'm using here as my example. So just a little bit, you'll notice, like I said, I've customized my widgets. I've gotten things the way that I want them. The quick launcher is absolutely great. And this should make it a lot easier moving forward for me to engage with the device. And it's just decluttering. So it comes and you have several different pages of things. And now I've kind of been able to make that my own. So that's really cool. I like this a lot from that perspective. It's familiar if you're an Android user. Now, if you're not, there's going to be more of a learning curve. But as far as just sheer flexibility, it has a lot going for it. And I do want to give, a little bit of an apology for my unboxing and complete lack of being able to use this case. It's really not that hard once you get used to it. So there are a couple of orientations you can put it in. You can put it in this one here, which would be really good for drawing or doing something else with it. The origami piece itself is actually not that hard. So you would pull this up, you fold this piece here, and then you just let it snap. And now you get that orientation like you've seen others use. So it's really not as hard as I made it seem. Now, I will say when it comes to this device, I do not like writing in the cover on it. Just as, yeah, it's very hard to do. So if you go into my initial test note here, and I do have a bunch of other things that I've done. I did use this last week at work just to test it out and get used to it. And it's, I'm learning as I go. But at the same time, what's really cool is it's very responsive. It's very snappy. There's a lot of writing here, a lot of different things I've been testing. The biggest issue that I have found is when you're writing in the cover, and I don't know if that's visible, but see the wobble that's happening here, and it's just not stable. So if I'm trying to write with this, I'm constantly causing issues with the way I'm trying to hold it. And I'm at a weird angle here, so I don't want to overstate this, but even when it's right up next to me and right up on me, it still does that wobble. And it's very distracting from trying to do what you want to do. So I tend to always take it out of the case whenever I'm using it. And then I just put it down. Now, when you take it out of the case, which is one thing that's very difficult for me to do, it becomes slippery. So unlike the Manta, which has the rubber feet, or the A5X, which had a slight, just barely perceptible incline going up to the left, this one it has nothing that keeps it in place. Now, that doesn't create a problem all the time, but occasionally it does. And I think that that's something you just have to get used to if you're going to use this device. But let's look a little bit through, and you'll notice again, I'll link those videos, that playlist for Voya. I've cleaned this up a lot. So if you watch the unboxing video, you would notice that this had a lot more on it. And I've played with some other things as well. So you have this idea of the outline feature. I've used that to try some different things. I can confirm that this is not like it's similar, but it's not like the headings function in the Supernote. And Aaron at 2530 Media told me that this is very similar, and it is similar. I will give it that. It does travel with the page. So when you put an outline feature on a page and tie it to that page, I can reorder these pages. It'll automatically reorient. The issue is it doesn't take me to the word. So it doesn't take me to the word or the phrase on the page. It just takes me to the page. So I have to kind of remember on the page where the thing is versus having that visual highlight telling me that this is your heading. This is the start of a new thing. Again, very similar, and of course, it does have the extended functionality of having subheaders. Again, you'd have to figure out a way to mark those and make those more prominent, but it is a powerful tool. And probably the biggest power this has over the Supernote right now is this idea of this exporting to the PDF and becoming hyperlinked within the PDF to create those chapters, those outlines, and that table of contents there. The Supernote does that within its own app, which is really useful and really cool, but it doesn't transfer over to the PDF. All right, as for another feature that I'm really enjoying on Books, and it's not so much for the color aspect, but just this idea of being able to easily navigate on a web page. I think that's really kind of cool because for reading, and again, I'm all about reading and being productive, and I've got to dig into these features more. Let's go into the city of Valparaiso cooling centers just to take a look at that and be able to go through and look at the text. And the images, of course, are going to, you're going to have some ghosting here. You can have BSRs working in the background. You can always do a full refresh right here by going to my center. And then you get your nice crisp text. Pretty cool. I like it a lot. I like the fact of having access to news, and you can do the optimizations on here as well. And I have gone through Google News and done their recommended optimizations. Now there are ways to customize that even further, but I do like having access to some of these news apps. And I'm going to install CNN and some of the other ones, but I don't want to go over crazy with it either. I want to be able to do this in a way that makes sense and that, again, doesn't get me too far down that path of, yay, I've got an Android device and now I can add anything I want to it. YouTube's on here, but I'm not going to be looking at YouTube on here. I may look at my studio statistics occasionally, but my phone is much faster, much easier, and much more easier to access. I mean, a lot of ways that I use that device for different things. But again, I am enjoying being able to navigate to a news app and be able to see that natively. And I may even get something like e-ink browser or something like, I think it's called e-ink bro, and use that to, minimize distractions. So I don't need the images per se, and I could go ahead and strip those out and have this be a text only experience. But it is nice to occasionally, have that color if you need it. And they are pretty. This looks much better than I thought it would. If you look at these greens here, this is a light green and then a darker green. And then I've turned on the text outlines and everything, but this is very well rendered. And I think that that's a testament to how far, especially Books, has come. And from what Kit has said, Kindle Colorsoft is just as good, if not better, at rendering these colors with this new Oxide backplane and Kaleido. Kaleido 3 is already a decent technology. Every time we say it's a dead end technology because it does one particular thing, they keep reinventing it and figuring out new ways to make it just a little bit better. And this, in a side by side with the Tab XC, is just better from what Kit has shown. Now, again, I don't have the Tab XC, so I can't put them side by side, but you can really make out the details here and see, and I've turned on the image smoothing, so it's very clear. You get the nice gradients. Now, is it going to be high res? No. Are you expecting that? You shouldn't be. But at the same time, it does give you a reference point and allow you to see things in a really natural way, very much like newspaper print. That's the best way that I can describe it, is that if I was sitting down reading a newspaper or some kind of a magazine newspaper style paper, those images would look very close to what you see here. And I think that's, to my mind, the best you're going to get without all of the constant flashing, all of the constant issues that are going to happen with something like Gallery. And then these new Spectre 6 panels that constantly have to reprint the image. Now, again, they're meant to be left alone in a lot of ways. This is meant to be more dynamic and be able to scroll. And then it works in the background to clean up all of that ghosting. Still kind of a cool thing. I don't know, and this may look a little washed out on camera, but I do want to talk about the NeoReader for a minute. So you'll notice there that this has a really good look to it. And again, color was not something that I was, and this isn't near as crisp as what I'm seeing in person, but the color on this device is not bad at all, considering what I was expecting. So I was expecting far less of an impact for the color. And even with this, will I use it on a daily basis? The jury's still out on that, but we'll just have to see. I am very much interested in how this works long term. Now, one thing that is a little bit of a frustration point, and I don't know that this is necessarily a me thing or what, but the toolbar here, and I think that's really kind of an issue, is that I followed Voya's directions. I got it set up the way I wanted to, but it's still covering the text. And maybe that's just me having to learn how to control the margins, but that's something I never really had to think about with Supernote, because their toolbar kind of automatically oriented itself around the text, so you didn't have to worry about that. It left an automatic margin. And again, this could be user error. If it is, let me know down in the comments as I learn the device. But it's something that would be distracting to me. Now, it is super easy to hide this and to make it smaller. And then when you do that, obviously it's just a little bitty blip, and I could move it up near the top and not have that issue as much, but it's something that I just noticed. Now, as far as sheer functionality, the NeoReader, I completely get what everybody's saying about this. You can do so many things with this platform as far as how to make this work. I haven't tried the split screen with a note yet, but it will be something I will try. I think that may have its own dedicated video, but this is something that I wanted to point out as a feature that I'm already really enjoying. And then the pinch to zoom on this works really well to change the font and move that up. It's extremely responsive and it just works. It just works. And that's the best way I can say it. And the clarity on the text is really good. Now, one thing that I have noticed, and it's not so much on the books, but on the note-taking application, the front light can be distracting. So I'm not sure if everyone falls into this camp, but when I'm writing, the device is usually to my right. For a left-hander, it would probably be to your left a little bit, and I am kind of looking at it at an angle. And when I'm writing on it, you can really see that front light. So that light emanating up makes the screen look bluish. However, when you're looking straight on it like this for reading, or if you're writing, once you've written something and you look back at it, you can't tell there's a front light on here. Now, if there wasn't one, obviously this would be very, very dark, but it looks more like a regular tablet that doesn't have a front light unless you are looking at it from that angle. So I don't know, it's almost like a cognitive dissonance thing where I notice it, it bothers me, but then I realize, okay, it's just part of the experience, and I know when I go back to look at my notes later, it won't be there, but it's just it's strange, and I don't know if anybody else has run into that. If you have, let me know. But I don't tend to write, and I think most of us don't tend to write straight down looking. I think we tend to turn our tablet, at least I do, like this, and then I tend to take notes. And when I'm doing that, I'm looking at that angle, and I can see that front light reflecting across the screen. Again, not a huge deal, but it's something that I think you should be aware of. Another thing here that's really cool about the platform is this idea of FreeMark. And I'll show FreeMark here in a few minutes in a different way, but these are some of the screenshots that I took with FreeMark. So the idea is, and this is from a Kobo book. So this is from the Heaven and Earth grocery store that I've been reading. So I downloaded it through Libby and then I pulled it onto my Kobo. And you can also do this with the Kindle app. What it does is it takes a series of screenshots and you can then save those every time you annotate a page directly into a notebook. So the idea being, and I left the lined grid on here because this is my test notebook, but truth is I can take it, I can put this anywhere. And then once I do, and I save that, I save it to a notebook, I pick the notebook, and I could have an entire book marked up within there. Now it's a little bit of a tedious process, but the fact that you can tie it directly to a note is really cool. And I think that gives it a standout feature. It's very similar to what Books' global handwriting is. And I think that that makes it really useful, especially if you're doing a lot of annotations on papers, books, different things like that. Now, papers, I wouldn't use it so much on because those will work in the NeoReader, so you probably wouldn't have that function needed. But especially if you're using third-party apps, I could see this being useful for PowerPoints or other formats that might require web pages, maybe even. Someone would say, hey, could you review this web page and mark it up? You can be within Edge or Chrome, and you can hit free write, and you can go ahead and mark that up, add annotations to it, maybe move some things around, do strike through, just different things that are really cool. And that's not available on all platforms. As far as I know, Books and Bigme are the only two to have it and allow you to really mark that up. Amazon has where you can add notes and kind of rewrap their books within the Kindle that I've seen for the Scribe, but it's still not the same. So it's pretty cool, and it's a function that is unique to the platform. And as a matter of fact, let's go ahead and take a look at that so that we can see what we've got going on here. So let's go ahead, and I've gotten to where I'm trying to. That's the one thing about the notes that is a little frustrating. My gestures are not working here, and I think it's because I had to turn them off because it was causing, yep, it was causing all kinds of palm rejection issues. But when I go out of it, I have actually configured my notes now to where I've configured the device to where I have my home screen, basically the quick switcher, all of these different things. And we'll go into the Heaven and Earth grocery store. And so we're back at this page. And now what you have to do is I've configured my menu again, very much shout out to Voya. And I'm going to hit FreeMark. And when I hit FreeMark, you're going to see this toolbar open here at the top. Now I can pick my pen style, and then I can always share this after the fact. I can do some different things here. I can insert it into a notebook when I'm ready to save it, and I can view handwritten notes when the time comes. So a lot of really cool functionality. But right now we're just going to write, and we're going to make random. Oh, I've got a different pen style here, so let's not do that. And we'll do random note. And we'll turn it and we'll do another. Okay, now obviously I wouldn't write that big normally, but I just wanted to have that on here to show you. Now when I go and I say, matter of fact, let me show you some of the options here. If I hit, I can share with the QR code, or I can insert to a notebook. And when I say insert to a notebook, you'll see I'll put my initial test. It's going to immediately take that. And then I can move it up here, which is what I did before. And then I will drag this and fill the screen. And now in my notebook, I have that all taken care of. So now this is saved. And if I go back, you're going to notice that I've got different things here. And there are the other two that I did. It's really that simple. FreeMark in and of itself, there are a couple of processes there, a couple of steps that are kind of, you got to remember them. But once you remember those process steps, you could go through a book or go through something that has multiple pages on a website and mark this up really well, really easily, and turn this into a real productivity tool, something you just can't do with other platforms. And I think that's a really cool feature here. And of course, you get your full color palette when you're in FreeMark as well. But it's really cool. And like I said, the only thing is the gestures. I turn them off because otherwise I get all the gestures when I go up and down. And then I'll exit this note. So pretty neat. And now I'm back to my page. So now if I wanted to do this, I could still mark all of this up. Again, remember, it's swipe down, FreeMark, and then that brings up that menu. Really awesome. It's just a really cool tool. I like it a lot, if you can't tell. It's probably one of my favorite features on the BOOX platform so far is this idea of FreeMark. Now, one thing too that I wanted to show you, and since we're in Kobo, my gestures do work. I can go straight up from the middle and it'll take me to my home screen. And now I'm back. And one thing I do want to show you is, let's see if I can find it here. I'm going to go to the note that I did for my blog, and shout out to Jay. He tried to help me with this, and come to find out this is a beta feature. So for those of you who have been following along, this is the new infinite scroll, or sorry, the new infinite note. And the cool thing about the infinite notes is it's infinite in both directions. So you'll notice here that if I scroll down, I'm going to get that entire note, and it's very similar to Supernote to where you can see it. But I can also scroll over and I can expand this all over the place. So it's pretty cool. I enjoyed writing in it. I'm not a huge fan of Infinite Canvas. I kind of like Pages just because to me they're easier to navigate. But to Books' credit, they did add a feature called a pin. And what I think is really cool about this is you can put a pin anywhere here. So it's almost like an enhanced outline. And remember, this is a beta feature. So if you're not on the beta yet, uh, you won't see this. But you get all of these pop-ups and you can rename or delete these pins. And adding a pin is really easy as well, because all you have to do is hold down and then you get the idea to add a location marker, I think is what they call it. Yeah, location marker. So you can add that location marker and you can also add text. You can do a lot of different things. But the cool thing about the location markers is that if you're treating this truly like an infinite canvas, or you're mind mapping on it and you're drawing boxes and you're adding information all over the place, and it's very much non-linear, you can drop those pins anywhere, those markers anywhere you want to, and then be able to navigate to that. So let's just say I wanted to add something. This was actually the blog that I sent, and I'll show you the part that was a little frustrating. But so here's a test pin. So we'll go test. And matter of fact, let's go test marker. So let's erase that. And we'll go test marker. Now I want to mark that. I go ahead, I add a location pin. Now that pin is there. So what I have to do now is I can go over here. I can go to my overview. Takes me right here to the overview that I have set up. And then I can go to pin 1 is how it's set up. Now, what's cool about that is when I go to scroll this, you see where that's at. It's all the way up here. I don't know if that showed. It's all the way up there in the corner, but it's way over here is the rest of the text. That's what makes this tool potentially very powerful. Now, one thing it's missing, and Rod showed this on his live stream the other day, is that cool trick that Remarkable has, where you can draw a straight line and then say select below and then just move everything down. Now, for me, that wouldn't be as big of an issue because, again, I think this pen concept, this marker concept allows you to circumvent that a little bit by just writing wherever you need to write and adding in ideas. It does disrupt the flow though. But you could drop a pen right in between two of these things over to the side. And if you notice, what it does is it remembers where you're at. So even though this is way off to the side, it's between these two other markers. And that would allow you to skip back and forth. So it's kind of a cool thing. I mean, it's a feature that I find very promising, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. Now, the thing that's a little frustrating, and this is where I got to give that shout out to Jay, is that I couldn't figure out how to turn this to text. So I actually had to retype all of this on my blog to get this blog out on time. So I had to sit down and retype it all. I tried to use the BOOX web app and it was having trouble syncing this, maybe because it's a new file type, but it was really having trouble with that. And so I reached out to Jay and I said, how do you do this? And he said, well, I'll just hit the AI button. And when you do that, you're going to see text recognition. That is in the original notes, in the regular notes app, and works perfectly fine. You just export that text to text and you're good to go. What you can't do is do that here. And it doesn't have that option here to be able to do that. So I tried to go to export. And again, I can do a bitmap, I can do a note file, a vector, or a single page PNG. None of that helps me. So if I want to use this as a text base, it really, they need to figure that out. And again, it's a beta, so I'm not blasting Onyx. I think that they're trying to figure this out, but they need to either figure out a way to reflow it and paginate it for that particular use case, or they need to figure out how to text recognize it so that it can be used as a text file. Because quite frankly, the infinite scroll piece would have been really helpful if it just all came out in a large rambling text file that I could have just pasted into Markdown and done my formatting on for Obsidian. Would have been really cool, but that's not what I had. And I tried to circle and go through the process of recognition. And to be honest, that is where this struggles. You may have seen my video on the new digest feature with the Supernote, and their text insert tool is seemingly better by default. There we go. If I smart lasso that note, and then I go to AI. Now watch what happens when it recognizes this. And this is something that hopefully Onyx will fix. It gets huge. And so now I've got this huge text box that does me no good at all. I can resize it. It doesn't expand. It's unwieldy. You get all of these options up in the toolbar to do different things with it, and you can set the size, but it's just not intuitive and it doesn't wrap to the box. And I don't know why that is, and I don't know why it blows up that big, but it does. And that really causes kind of an issue if you're trying to recognize this to pull it out or do something with it. So that to me is a little bit of a miss. And I think this happens also in the regular Notes app. But if not, I will definitely follow up on that and take a look. But I'm pretty sure that functionality is the same. The last thing I want to highlight here, as far as something I really enjoy on this platform so far, is the widgets. We've already talked about how I've kind of grouped and cleaned up the home screen. I don't have a second page, everything's on this first screen. And then I can always swipe over this way and I get the quick launcher. Very much at home for being an Android user, but then I can customize all of my widgets. And I haven't dug into the quick memo setting yet, or the memo function here as much yet, but I've heard good things about that from Rod and from Aaron at 2530 Media, that that's a really useful function. That is something that I will check out. But I love having my notes here. I love having the top bar and the search bar there at the top, and then my reading analytics. Now I can customize this any way I want. And then on the second page, I get my apps, and this is kind of the home landing page. But I also have my two widgets. So most likely I'm going to use the library and the notes the most, but I could always switch that out and put different widgets up there if I wanted to. But I like this global kind of widget interface here. And you'll notice that most of the icons that are here are also replicated here. Now, I do have a little bit of an addition with Google Play here if I want to pull something down. But overall, just the interface itself and the widgets and the amount of control you get. And if we go here, I'll double or I'll hold down and press here, very much again, Android-like. And then I get all of these different widgets. So a lot of different options and customizations that you can do and have here. And it's just really cool. So I love that you can do the widgets that come custom with different things. Kobo, Libby. It's really neat. I like it a lot. As someone who is an Android user, I think it's really an interesting thing to have. And I love these gestures. So being able to swipe to go home, being able to swipe here to pull up the e-ink center, being able to swipe down here to get all of the different things that I have available to me, and then being able to swipe over here to see my quick switcher. That's something that makes this device very easy to navigate, and I think is going to be really good. Again, once you get through that setup process. Now, I've had this less than a week, and I'm already, thanks to Voya and thanks to some good friends, starting to get the hang of it. There's still a lot more to learn, but I wanted to kind of throw out there and highlight the things that I'm already impressed with, and also some of the things that are still a work in progress. Again, it's a beta. What you're seeing in your settings or in your screens may be a little bit different, but I do really enjoy the fact that they're working, I hope, and it feels like they're working towards more of a unified interface across platforms, or at least close enough. Whatever OS version you're on, it's really important that naming conventions at least name things the same. Put them under the correct submenu. And I think Books is working towards that. They just have a long way to go. And partially it's because they have so many things. And it makes it much harder when you have so many things, so many menus, so many tools to keep all of that straight in multiple devices and interfaces. Now, again, that's not a knock at Books. I think they're innovative in a lot of ways on the software side. But keeping track of all of that is very difficult. But that's my quick tour, and let me pop back over and we'll wrap things up. In this video, we talked about a lot of different things that I've found useful so far in the first week of using the Note Air 4C. Hopefully that's been useful to you. I'm going to continue to make videos. I'm going to start digging into dedicated functions and really getting deeper into my specific use case for these types of activities. So this was just kind of that first week of using it, trying to use it in my workflow, trying to really incorporate it, very similar to how I used my ink tablet already, but using and maximizing the features that Books has, and also just that initial learning curve. But as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching and supporting the content on the channel. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family. And if you haven't checked us out over on Patreon, check us out over there. Consider signing up for my Introduction to Organization and Second Brain Systems course. Also consider becoming a member there and a member on YouTube. any way you can to support the channel using my affiliate links down in the description. All of that is super helpful. And you'll see the list of patrons and YouTube insiders going right now on the screen. I can't thank you all enough for making this a reality, and I hope you continue to get value out of the content that I am making. And last of all, put some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Ask questions, be inquisitive, share with each other as a community. It's always appreciated and welcomed, and I do my best to answer every single comment. Until next time, keep on moving forward, and we will talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye.